Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning, everybody. It is 26th. It's Friday. We got some numbers. We got personal income and spending, that sort of stuff. So we do have some important economic numbers. But let's go back over to the charts. Kind of had an interesting situation last night. Well, not last night, but yesterday. You know, it ended up being a really boring day most of the day. I mean, of course, there was a good range. So I would say volatility was still good, but it was choppy and it didn't really go anywhere. And people were actually starting, excuse me, people were actually starting to get bored. But then, about an hour before the close, we just got this really strong rally. Just some, Zero Hedge says, some buy program turned on. I don't know if that's really what was causing it, but something happened. Now, maybe one reason that we moved up was because there was all this stuff about the bank stress tests and the banking regulations, and that might have been a reason for them to move up. So appropriate. It's only a little bit of a move compared to this real bender of a move that we had, before that. So we'll see where they settle at today. We got that economic news, and then after that, I don't know if there's really a whole lot of reason for them to move around. So we'll see. Anyways, I got to do a little bit of reading here because I don't know what happened, but I just got way distracted today. So I need to come over here and do a little bit of reading. Let's turn on the text to speech. We got about 6 minutes. That's more than enough time to read this. Federal Reserve stress tests stated that the Fed is to cap dividend payments and ban share repurchases in quarter 3 for 34 of the largest banks. U.S. banks are subdued in the pre-market. Yeah, Fox News poll showed Biden leading in Florida, Georgia, etc., etc., etc. Banks suffered $700 billion in aggregate loan losses under the most severe COVID scenario, and several firms would approach minimum capital requirements. Four minutes. Oh, let's make sure I got the text to speech going here for you guys. Okay. Winston, good morning. And are you ready for fill in the blank? I guess so. Mm. Okay, so we'll let this news come through, and then we gotta read this figure. We've been speaking with Gary Norton on Twitter, so gotta. He says context means we must always be in the moment, trade in the now. The whole premise of technical analysis is to use past actions. Therefore, context and technical analysis are never compatible, in my honest opinion. So he thinks that the key differentiating factor is that it is current actions. His personal, the spending number is going to matter. They're expecting that personal income to be -6. Okay, it's -4 spot 2 versus a -6. And personal spending 8.2 versus 9. So the income was not as bad as expected, but the spending was not as good as expected either. Price index close to inline, 1 spot 0 versus spot 9. So a little
Winston's mom says
mixed.
MarketWatch opinion, a lot of bad news is converging on the stock market. Here's how to deal with it. I might suggest upping everyone's prescription.
Hmm. I think that personal
Fitz's
income
son says, do you
numbers.
think there will be a second stock market crash? If so, do you think it will be better or worse than the first one?
Well, I should avoid trying to predict the future. I think that a second wave is a risk for sure. If it happens, probably a second wave would not be as bad as the first wave in terms of the impact on health. Or hopefully it's not, because we should all be prepared. In terms of its impact on the markets, it may be difficult for them to push the markets to new low because you have much more central bank support at the moment that acts as a cushion. So I should recenter everything. I've certainly been watching for another thing. I mean, the issue is that we're way overvalued from a fundamentals standpoint. We're overvalued. So okay, let's respond here to Gary. using two spaces doesn't help on Twitter.
Winston's mom says I believe we are at risk of losing our status as the world reserve currency. In 1944, the US dollar was chosen as the world reference currency at Bretton Woods.
Sure. In favor of what? The Chinese yuan? Yeah. The issue with the idea of a using a different reserve currency is always and has always been, what do you use? What else do you use? You could use the euro, but a lot of countries are trying to get out of the euro. So do you really want that to be your reserve country? You could use the yuan, but do you really want to be you really want to give
Winston's
the
mom
financial
says
power
yes,
to China? You really want to give the financial power? Okay, so let's put it down as that it was China. Okay. If China became the world reserve currency, they would abuse it to hell, right? They're a communist nation. They don't really believe in capitalism. They're causing conflicts all over the place. And they are still, frankly, an emerging economy. Look at the moves that we've had just in the past year, just over trade policy, right? The yuan is not suitable as a world reserve currency at this time because it's volatile and it's not safe. It's risky. It's risky to be in the yuan. Chinese investors are trying to get out of the yuan and are resorting to all sorts of crazy things like using Bitcoin and so forth to do it. So, probably not going to happen anytime soon. There probably would have to be a war before that would happen. Let's see here. U.S. savings rate dropped from record 33.2 to 23.2 as government benefits current transfer receipts shrank. Well,
Gary Rich
the
says our losing reserve currency status is about plausible as significant as a stinky fart in a hurricane. China the reserve currency. Yeah right. Keep that fortune cookie safe or play the lotto better odd.
I mean anything is possible 20 years from now, right? But in the near future, like the next 5 years, not a chance. 1% chance, let's say. I I would feel. But I'm certainly not going to put my money into the Chinese yuan. Do you want to do that? Do you want to do that in 5 years? I mean, if you want to do that in 5 years, then maybe now would be a good time to get in, huh? Because it's low.
Winston's mom says we have some troop movements, China, India, and now we are moving troops.
Yeah, they did move into troops, but if you go and you look at who on Twitter and everything, they kind of, you know, sounds like that they're working that out and that's going to die down for now. And I don't think that India and China care enough about that location to have an all-out war at the moment, right? It would have to end up being a larger conflict. But it's not like it can't happen, right? Because China could all of a sudden just decide, okay, well, we're going to annex Korea and we're
Gary
going
Rich
to,
says, hey, get real, stop this stupid debate about China as reserve status. China want reform to be reserve status. I will bet my life on this one.
yeah, I agree. The larger issue is that nobody in the Western world is going to want to give them that power. I mean, they certainly are. Their currency is certainly going to become more powerful as they expand in Africa and stuff. But world reserve currency, probably not. Biggest annual drop in government wages on record. Spending rebound disappoints as government handouts shrink. I think that's a good observation. I think the personal spending not being as high as expected
Uzi
matters more.
Knesset says, thanks for the insight yesterday, bro. Started working with level 2 stuff in NinjaScript winking face.
Oh, you did?
Cam Divine says, here from your future for beginner video, cheers, mate.
You're from the future, Cam? How do things shake out in the future? Does Donald Trump win? Can you tell us that? I would like to know if Donald Trump wins or loses in the 2020 election. That would probably be. I bet you there's probably more useful information that you can give us, right?
Uzi Knesset says, yeah, I go quicker with something to build off of, which is why I asked you for some code to start with, but I'm also resourceful, LMAO.
Nice.
Uzi Knesset says, so I figured it out.
I would like to know.
Gary Rich says, if we do lose reserve status, it will become a SDR type of status.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Cam Divine says, Trump does win.
Trump does? Oh, good. Awesome. I don't want Joe Biden. Just being honest with you. I mean, I'm not gonna say that Donald Trump is perfect. Oh my gosh, I was having this. I shouldn't have done it, but got into an argument with somebody on Reddit because they said that they were comparing Donald Trump to Hitler, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but Donald Trump didn't murder 12 million people, okay? So it's not a valid comparison. And he was like, "Oh well, a Holocaust survivor said that is comparable." That's an appeal to authority fallacy. Who cares who thinks what? It's a bad argument. So I stopped arguing with them because it was like, if I point something out and then you use the same flawed argument again, that's the end.
Cam Divine says, Sleepy Joe will never get elected. Trump is doing a great job, just needs to keep his mouth shut, smiley face.
I'm not sure I agree with you, Cam. I think that the reason Donald Trump is having a problem is because he's not talking about the right things. He's talking about law and order, but he's not talking about let's improve he's not saying that feel good things about racial relations. See, everybody thinks in their minds, here's this moment where everything becomes better for race relations in America because we're all united and then here's Donald Trump. Law and order. That's not what they want to hear right now. That's why his polling numbers are going down. Now, he's said positive things about it, but it's like he'll say like one or two things and the media ignores it and then it's not a thing anymore.
Winston's mom says, no, I stand by my introverted intuition and he will be gone before the end of this term.
We can't. It's too early to really predict.
Cam Divine says, good point.
I would only say that there's a lot of concerns that I would have with Joe Biden being president. In particular, that there are idea that they would want to give if Joe Biden became president, That would mean that the Democrat Party would have almost complete control over all three branches of government, and they would make very drastic changes that I do not think the majority of Americans will like. Very drastic changes. And so I'm noticing that one of the things is that there's a lot of moderates and even some Republicans that are saying, "Oh, well, kind of like Donald Trump, but I'm willing to give Joe Biden the
Gary
benefit of
Rich
the
says
doubt."
history is clear. Economies get into debt issues, the geopolitics amplifies, sparking a skirmish or war. Wars are stimulative, just watch it's beginning to spark off.
Yeah, well, the cycle is very yeah. There's very much a cycle. Although the caveat that I would put on that is that war is different today, right? We don't have war like World War II, right? The governments have essentially, after World War II, they essentially turned to different methods of warfare because conventional war has turned out to be ineffective. Like basically after the Vietnam War, it basically became conventional
Gary
warfare
Rich
is
says
ineffective.
SDR are special drawing rights from the IMF, World Bank.
Okay. Oh, right. A reserve asset created by the IMF in 1969 to supplement its member countries' official reserves. Hmm.
Winston's mom says, I know not with what weapons World War III will be fought, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Albert Einstein.
There you go. Well, the treasuries are pulling a level break setup right now at the highs. Let's see what they do. There's a pretty big iceberg at the moment sitting there at the high in the 5-year.
Gary Rich says those polls are crap. If you read inside of them, they are so skewed and misleading.
Well, here's the problem. How do you prove that? So, oh my gosh. I've ordered a new floor mat so that it's easier for me to adjust my chair. Bear with me. How do you prove that? So the thing that you're going to say makes it skewed. Hold on.
Sunday Driver says Biden will win in a landslide. Dems will control all branches. AOC and progressives will implement MMT. Dollar crashes. Before decade is out, US dollar will lose reserve status. USA will break apart.
Well, I don't know if they would be able to implement MMT. You would have to get the Federal Reserve to do that, but they would probably be willing to take on more debt. Yeah. Yeah. I would be more concerned, like, what would be policies that they would implement that I think the majority of Americans would oppose. They would change executive level immigration policy to basically allow open borders, which would have a drastic, long lasting consequences on the demographics of the United States and would place a severe financial burden on the states receiving the mass influx of people. And I mean, if they open it up, it will be a mass. It'll be tens of millions, right? So that's one of the really big ones. They would probably stop pressuring China. They might pretend like they're being tough with China and everything, but essentially the long march of globalism would continue. What are some? You know what? I'm getting distracted. Gary Rich says the polls are crap. So what you're going to say is you go into the polls and they say, they're undersampling Republicans. Okay, well, how do you know that they're undersampling Republicans? Just because the overall population of Republicans was X 4 years ago doesn't mean that that's what it is in 2020. So how do you determine what the appropriate partisan breakdown should be? Maybe it's the case that everybody that didn't like Donald Trump has left the Republican Party and doesn't consider themselves a Republican anymore, right? How would we know? How would we prove that? I don't think there is any way to do it. You basically just have to say, well, they have a way of determining partisan affiliation, and it either ends up working or it doesn't, and there's no way for us to know. But, assuming that their methodology is consistent from poll to poll, there's definitely a trajectory that can't be ignored. And the trajectory has been so severe. And not only that, but we can point to things happening in the real world to cause that to happen. I just don't think it's the case that all of this protesting and coronavirus stuff has happened, and in reality, Donald Trump's support has solidified, but the polls are telling us the opposite. I have a really hard time believing that. A really hard time believing that. I think it's much more the case that
Sunday Driver says they are probably undersampling Republicans. They are going to throw the election with mail-in voting. The polls are just preparing us for the big fix. Election will not be fair.
probably the reality is that he is down right now, but that we are so early in the contest that the polling on this information is not very predictive of what the final result is going to be, and so you just kind of take it with a grain of salt. This change in the market that like Biden is absolutely going to win now is kind of silly. But the market take that Donald Trump was absolutely going to win was kind of silly too. I mean, I remember telling you, right now it looks like Donald Trump is like definitely going to win, but I'm sure that it will be very, very close. Right? Like, man, we've got like 5 months. 5 months. The real race hasn't even begun. Huh? Go and put those two up on stage together. Like right now, Joe Biden can barely put together coherent sentences. You put him up there and he's stumbling around like that in front of Donald Trump, where Donald Trump is very aggressive. It's not, I won't, if that happens, like it's a huge risk. If I was Joe Biden, I'd be looking for every reason to not do the debates. There's all those things. But in the meantime, I think if you are a Donald Trump supporter or you're a right wing guy, to sit down and say, "Oh well, the polls are wrong," and then put your head in the sand is the worst thing that you can do, guys. The poll is telling you something, telling you that what we're doing right now
Gary
isn't
Rich
working.
says you can look inside those polls. You have to dig inside of them.
Well, you can look at the partisan affiliation. You can look at what they sampled, but you don't know why they chose that breakdown. They don't expose that part of their methodology. They just say, okay, based on what we polled, this is what we think the turnout is going to be on election day, and this is how we weighted it. But you don't know why they weighted it that way. All you can do is sit down and say, well, I think the weighting should be this, and then readjust it. But why do you think that the weighting should be this? Because that's what it was in 2016? So what? Could change. Mm-mm. Oh yeah, I think it's a really you don't want to put your head in the sands. Okay, so the E-mini just took a little dive there. Treasuries ticked up. So Treasuries think something's up. Well, when it moves up like that off of a level break, you know, tends to be that it'll go even more. First squawk. Mexico says it won't give oil away in international agreements. Rabobank. Is any wonder we have soaring stock prices at a time of mass unemployment? No. So if things are going wrong, well, we talked about it yesterday, right? If the polling indicates that Donald Trump is having a problem and that they should make some changes. So what are the changes? Well, the Americans don't believe that Donald Trump has been very sensitive in regards to racial relations. And Americans believe that Donald Trump has not taken concerns over coronavirus seriously enough.
Sunday Driver says white women will determine election. They've been shamed for voting Trump in 2016. They don't like to be in the out group. They want to fit in.
Well, I haven't seen any data to support the assertion that more white women will vote, or that. Well, I think that the data does suggest that more white women are voting Biden at the moment. But even some of the men have. There's like the problem right now is that they're even losing some Republicans. Even some of the base that Donald Trump has are right now. Oh well, you know what? This could be something else. But in these surveys, a lot of the guys that have been part of Trump's like solid base are even saying that they're going to vote for Biden. Now, maybe people are just lying on the survey. I don't know, but when they say why, they say, well, it's his response to this. So I think that you should sit back and say, okay, we've got to do a better job of convincing on this, right? On one hand, would need to do a better job of pointing out the problems with the protests and that we need law and order. And then on the other hand, you have to say here is where the Trump administration has been really good for race relations. And talk, give them the good feelings about it. Because apparently that's what matters in the end, is how people feel about
E-Trader says,
shit.
hey Seth.
I shouldn't swear. That was a pretty good dive there.
Winston's mom says Pence might step aside to save his political future, and they bring in Nikki Haley.
I keep hearing that, but they already squashed that one.
Sunday Driver says somehow, blue state problems are being tagged on Trump and Republicans.
Yeah.
Every state with race relations problems, in effect, riots, are blue states and cities.
Oh yeah. Totally. You're totally right. But see, they seem to think
Gary
that
Rich says at Mom, yes, I see Nikki in 2024.
Yeah, and maybe in 2024. They seem to think that the reason that race relations in the United States are bad is because the founding fathers were racists, and if we take down their statues, that will fix everything. So
E-Trader says, is someone here familiar with Oni UpTrader?
Yep. So I've had a bunch of people tell me.
Sunday Driver says Nikki Haley. Yuck. Gag me with a spoon.
I've had a number of people tell me that when you get funded with One UpTrader, that it's not a live account when you start. So they don't put you through the you have to go through the combine again, and like they do with Top Step. But instead, what they do is you're trading a non-live account, and if you make money on the non-live account, they still pay you the money.
Winston's mom says Gary Rich probably more likely than this year.
But I've had multiple people tell me that they went in to put liquidity on, and it doesn't reflect in the level 2. Now, maybe they changed that. Maybe that's all stuff. Now we have what is it? We have an affiliate code for One UpTrader in the announcements channel of the Discord. So if you do choose to do it, So I'm not really a fan of combines anymore. I think that you're better off just trading micros.
eTrader says it does not make sense if they don't give you live account.
Well, if you trade well with that and prove yourself on their fake live account, then my understanding is then they move you over. But yeah, I think that it's better to just fund your own account. Okay, but maybe there's some of you that it makes sense. Like maybe you're just an amazing trader and you just want to go over to a big account, and you're super confident and you know that you're going to pass. Then go for it. And we have an affiliate code that will give you a little discount. But
Winston's mom says Trading Futures Livestream, the 26th of June 2014 watching now, started streaming 37 minutes ago. Please hit like. Thanks.
I don't know if anybody has ever actually used that affiliate code. I haven't looked recently. I certainly don't try and I'm of the opinion that anybody that is a legitimate vendor that wants to help the community out and will give us code or a discount or something like that, then 100% can go for it. But I just don't.
Gary Rich says at Mom Pence want run, it's not him. 2024 will be likely Haley and Dan Crenshaw, TX rep, that's my dream team.
And Dan
Pantax says
Crenshaw?
how much does it cost?
Well, there's different combine levels that you can choose. So the larger of an account that you're going to end up trading, the more they have to pay for the combine. Anyways, but the gist of that was I'm not a fan of combines right now. Now that there are micro contracts available, I think that that's a much better option for you. I'm getting a little shake there. I don't know if that was an earthquake or if that was
eTrader says
just...
one thing that I don't understand is being flat during economic event, for example FOMC statement. Should I be flat for all FOMC statement?
Yeah, probably. I mean, like, listen, if you have gone through and you've done some research and you have some sort of thing that you believe has a really high probability of predicting what that FOM statement is going to be and how the market is going to react to it, and you have a really big account, then hey, go for it. But generally speaking, with an economic event, none of us have any clue what the number is going to be, and there's a high degree of uncertainty.
RJ Wheels says yes.
So it's better to just not have a position on when going into those events.
Winston's mom says Gary Rich, Haley and Dan Crenshaw very interesting. I will pay more attention, thanks.
Now, after the news event is a time period where a small day trader can have an advantage, okay? Because you can get in and out very, very quickly. And if you're doing your homework and everything, you could have a really good idea of how the market is going to react. Of course, use proper risk management. But, that can be one of those places where, especially as of late, the
eTrader
news
says
comes
there are
out.
many FOMC statement.
Yeah, the news comes out, and then it doesn't. It moves a little bit, but not really a whole lot. And you can go in and say, "Oh no, wait, this is important, and this is how it affects the market," and you can trade it, and you can make money on it. This happens.
RJ Wheels says the big ones. Marked in red. RJ Wheels says on Forex Factor T. Gary Rich says it's real simple 40% left, 40% right, 20% are independent, the 20% swings elections. People vote with their pocketbook, not race.
That's what it's been in the past. I don't know. I mean, go back to my original argument.
eTrader
Right?
says RJ, how do you know that I should be flat only for the red one?
Like I get what you're saying, but I'm saying it's not pertinent to the argument that I made, which is what the makeup of the election population was in the past is not necessarily what it's going to be like on election day in 2020. That's the argument that you have to address to sit down and say that the polls are absolutely wrong. Aren't police attending a major incident in Glasgow city centre. No danger to the public. So they're the way that the squawks are talking about it suggests a terrorist event.
Sergio C. Bajos says your channel is awesome.
Sunday Driver says massive immigration has changed the
Thank you.
percent. If Republicans don't change things, they will be in an electoral winter that will freeze them out of national elections forever.
RJ Wheel says cause it's volatile.
So here's how I would look at it for the news. If you're watching the DOM and all of the liquidity at every level pulls, then that's a news event that you should be paying attention to.
RJ Wheel
and be
says
flat.
experience a few. Trade a bunch on sim. Only way to learn.
Every once in a while, it'll happen to me where I thought I knew what all the news was, and then there was something I missed or forgotten about, and I see the liquidity pull, and so I get out, and then you're sure glad that you did. I guess another thing is that if you have, something that I've done successfully in the past, but it's, doesn't always work out, is you have favorable action going into the report. And so you can bank in, a couple of ticks of breathing room before the news even comes. And then that allows you to hold through the event. And then if it turns out the way that you want, you get a really big spike, and then you can make a ton. And if it doesn't work out, then you just scratch it.
E-Trader says, yep, I'm already on that. Just afraid that neglect a minor FOMC during funded account and be suspended.
Oh, no, there's no such thing as a minor FOMC, right? It's a Wednesday. It always happens on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock Eastern Time.
says, I think a new party will emerge Sunday Driver.
It always happens at Wednesday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time. And it's always the only thing that the market cares about when it happens.
Winston's mom says, I think Pence smokes and not just cigarettes. I noticed he has smoker's skin, and then on Late, Kimmel showed a clip of Pence and said he looks stoned. I wonder if mother knows. Gary Rich says at RJ, did you read my note in Discord lobby? E-Trader says yesterday FOMC.
No. So you're probably thinking
E-Trader
it is something
says
else.
Does not count.
What you're thinking is FOMC is something else. Let's come and look at what it was on Forex Factory. You're talking about... No, there was no FOMC yesterday. Are you talking about the
RJ
bank?
Wheel says no.
Maybe you're talking about the bank stress test results?
RJ Wheel says ILL go check.
Here's what was on the calendar on Forex Factory yesterday.
E-Trader says wait ILL go check.
Bank stress test results? American bear at month end dollar weakness and bonds bid point towards 1800 in gold. Not sure we hold price above there, but should be general direction. Well, at the moment, they're heading down in gold. I don't necessarily see dollar weakness either. It's just 97.28. It's kind of just been going flat. There is definitely a bid in treasuries, but I think that that's probably either year-end rebalancing, or not year-end, but quarter-end rebalancing, or somebody just taking profits before the weekend and getting out of the market.
E-Trader says FOMC member Kaplan speak of Dallas.
Okay, sure. So when an FOMC member speaks, that's different. Ellen, I didn't see, there wasn't one yesterday. There was some earlier in the week though, right? Oh, maybe I have it filtered out. Now I have everything applied.
Sunday Driver says at RJ Wheel C. I don't see how the nation stays together after Dems win and implement globalism.
Okay, so here you go. FOMC member Mester speaks. So here's how I would deal with that. Come and look at it. Read the description. Due to participate in a virtual panel discussion about the Fed's response to
E-Trader
COVID-19.
says FOMC of Atlanta also speak.
Sunday
Hosted
Driver
by the
says
Global
Glasgow reports a
Interdependence
massive stabbing attack.
Center. Okay, there is a terrorist attack. Audience questions expected. Okay. And that's the key one. So now you sit down and you say, okay, so what is he talking about? Because a lot of time he's going to be talking about, it's a forum that's going to have absolutely nothing to do with anything that's going to move markets. Fed's response to COVID-19, that would be fairly important, but that's not necessarily like the thing that like the market's really focused on. What's the next step that the Federal Reserve is going to do in their response? No, it's like the Federal Reserve has done their response and it's going, right? So that's not like a huge impact. But then there's also audience questions expected. So when that happens, usually the liquidity doesn't pull, but sometimes you can see weird action around that time. So it's okay to be in a position if you have other fundamental things going on that look really, you know, that give you a good opportunity, but you just be cautious when a Fed speaker is coming. But that's not FOMC. It's just an FOMC member speaking, I guess is the way they put it. I hope that's explains it well enough. Do you worry about medium impact news item? So yes. So when you come over here and they say like impact is medium or high or whatever, I would ignore that. What matters is the impact on the thing that you're looking to trade, right? If I'm trading today, excuse me, if I'm trading treasuries, personal spending and personal income are high impact. Those can really affect your treasuries. They list the impact as like impact on the currency. Forex Factory is doing it for Forex sake. So what they say the impact is, it doesn't matter, right? You come over to Wednesday, it's going to say crude oil inventory, low impact expected. But if you're trading oil, that's not a low impact event, is it? So that's why I say you got to know what it is. That's why what they come in this stuff, when you click on the detail, read these and see what is the number. Why do people care about it? How should that affect my particular instrument? Figure it out. Come back and look at them like, okay, here's one where we thought it was going to be negative and it was positive. Okay, what day was that? May 20th. And then you want to come back over to here. Oil. Can I go back that far? No, I can't go back that far. Oh, no, wait, yes, I can. May 20th. Okay. So the build was much higher than they were expecting a draw, and there was a build. And what happened to oil that day? Yiddish. That was the really bad day. Make sense? Where'd my stupid... we should pull this back over to here. My mouth is dry today.
Gary Rich says the banks are not allowed to issue a dividend with the recent stress test. They are defunct zombie. Thanks Dodd-Frank bill of 2010.
There's going to be interesting to see where they open today. because they were doing really well yesterday, and I think that people even liked what the stress tests said. But then you're right, like no dividend and stuff.
E-Trader says yes, I understand. I should deepen my research on TOHRs now, like GDP and unemployment rate and other major releases.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So the advantage that I think you can pull um, is that a lot of those reports, it's more than just the headline number, and they affect different instruments differently. And so that's one of the places where I found that you can do an analysis and you can find a little bit of edge over the rest of the market. Because if you're specializing on that one instrument, you can make the decisions about how it affects your view of value much more quickly than the market can. And you only need one lot and you're in. Wow, Trump's 4th of July celebration is double the cost from the previous years? Well, I'm excited then because last year's was pretty cool to watch. I want to go see.
E-Trader says I decided that I only trade S and NQ.
Okay. Well, it's funny that it's NQ because they're like everybody likes to trade NQ. Oh, it's the Widowmaker, guys. Oh. Oh, that's funny. I was looking there. Oh, 4th of July. Okay, well let's see, because I like the seeing the jets and stuff. I want to go see some jets, and so I search for 4th of July, and there was actually an air show this weekend, but they canceled it. Crap. Lame. It's getting close to the 4th, isn't it, man? It's like a week. Look at this. I'm like, okay, here, what are some fun things to do in the 4th of July in Salt Lake City? Watch fireworks at Jordan Park. Oh, wait, they're canceled. They're canceled. They're canceled. They're canceled. Canceled.
RJ Wheel says
Canceled.
try YM.
Canceled. Canceled. Everything on this list is canceled. No, this page was not useful. Everything is canceled.
RJ Wheel says NQ is hard to learn on. Gary Rich says crude gave back its $40 gains due to slow GDP projections in 2021 by IMF and partly COVID increases. More GDP slowing.
Where are they right now again? They're like below 4. They're like in the 30s though, right?
E-Trader says
38.
YM is a bit slow.
So YM, it takes more to move, huh?
RJ Wheel says lol.
Jeez. Guess we're just staying home for the 4th of July.
RJ Wheel says you need slow.
I thought that I've never pulled the YM up. I thought that it would be faster because it moves more than the E-mini in the day.
RJ Wheel says it's faster than ES, so I don't understand.
You don't get it. Yeah, okay, it's faster than ES. It's because you crackheads that trade NQ. Oh man, if you want to see an air show, you're tough luck.
E-Trader says really?
It's faster than ES, right?
Pantac says isn't NQ just slightly more volatile than
Oh,
S?
and NQ is much more volatile than ES. I wouldn't. Volatile is
E-Trader
maybe not
says
the
S
right word.
has more tick value. RJ Wheels says YM faster than E-Mini.
Oh, look, there's an easy way to
Winston's
settle
mom
this,
says
right?
each year Americans light about 200 million pounds of fireworks. Firework and most of them are imported from China. $247,100,000 worth. RJ Wheels says hence why you should trade YM. Smaller risk per tick. RJ Wheels says trade micros anyway. Learn.
Oh, there's a lot less liquidity on YM for starters. Holy crap, they're only putting up 4s at most of those levels. You people trade this? What? You guys.
E-Trader says I trade micro usually, however if I see an opportunity I trade mini. Guido Sledden says yes, what's going on? No one is in the market.
Nope. Market is like super quiet today, isn't it? Well, the E-mini is. There's something. I think that what's going on is that they taken their profits in the equities and they're buying over the treasuries over here. Treasuries moved up really good. Now, sometimes when they do that, that's a signal that like a big sell is coming in the E-mini. I'm not so sure if that's the case this time, but possible. I really want to go to an air show, guys. I want to take my baby to an air show. You know what? It's okay. We can go next year. He'll be a little older. He can enjoy it more. The worst part is that the air show that was supposed to be here in Utah was like an 80-year anniversary. It was a not an 80. It was an anniversary one, so it was supposed to be extra big. Okay, so yeah, they're all kind of. No thanks. Yeah, so can you see there in NQ right now there is a gap? So there is a 2-tick spread in the NQ.
Gary Rich says hey, crack is cool.
And you're only like the liquidity there is really really light. So the issue that you get there is they can just blow right through you. So I'm pretty sure that both NQ and YM are way faster than ES just off of that alone. Oh, we'll watch. See, we got them on here. Oh, you know what? We don't. We need what font size are we using over here? We're using like 8. Okay, we're using 8. Let's change these ones over to 8. Use 8 there. And here on this one, we'll use 8. All right. And move that over a little bit. So now you should be able to see they move tick for tick. Okay, so you see that right there. So we moved down a little bit, and look, the NQ just moved down 4 ticks, and then they moved up 8 ticks. Yeah, and this is quiet action. But for you guys that traded, I guess that's normal. In oil, that's not unusual either. But to me, that's crazy. To me, the E-mini already moves too much. I think the E-mini already moves too much, man. No, look at him. Now, I guess the caveat then of that is that if you were specializing just in
E-Trader says
equities,
really.
being able to have these up next to each other can give you useful information.
Winston's
right?
mom says Park City 4th of July celebration and fireworks July 3rd, 2020, tentative.
Tentative, yeah, it's tentative. I don't care about fireworks. I want to see airplanes. It's okay. We get those fireworks that shoot up in the air. We'll have fireworks.
Winston's mom says Kanab's Independence Day celebration July 4th, 2020, tentative.
Oh, I'm not gonna go to Kanab. No. I want airplanes. I just want to see. You would think that an air show would be something, it's outside, you can social distance. I would think an air show would be okay. Whatever. Okay, Treasury's coming back here quite hard. The deltas in the 5-year are really extreme. Gold is taking a dive. Yeah, just watching
E-Trader says
that.
gotta go to focus on my trades.
You're okay. Just looking at that
Gary
makes me a
Rich
little
says
sick.
just buy a drone and spy on the hot neighbor's wife. That's worth 4th of July summer viewing.
I really want to buy it. I really should buy a drone. I don't know what I'm waiting for. It's only like $100 to build your own. Mm-mm. There are people that they fly these drones out there at night. I don't know what the deal is. One is like an actual drone, but the other one is something else. It must just be like an airplane or something. And it's like late at night that they do it. Yeah, so this is crazy. See, so NQ is already moved up. So they're both volatile. YM and NQ are both volatile, and I don't understand what the advantage. I think that if you were trading YM, it would be because you understand that those stocks well for some reason, the specific behavior of that index. But I don't see an advantage in terms of the differences in liquidity.
Gary Rich says don't let the low volume deceive you, it still moves.
Oh, it totally moves, I'm sure. Yeah, all you need is like one order over there and it can move it. I would recommend it, yes.
Winston's mom says, Ma, here comes a drones, skeet shooting with prizes.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of people lose big money off of NQ, right? Let's see here. What is Gary saying here in the lobby? It's Friday. What a minor major week, man, when you need a blue chill pill to keep these markets pointing up. Bank stress tests. They're saying that all of the banks pass the stress test, but I think that when they say that, oh, you can't have a dividend, that means that you failed. Whatever. There's different levels. That means that you gotta be. No, Gary thinks it's gonna be a slow day. You might be right, Gary. We had a good move there in treasuries, but I don't see anything in the E-mini that really tells me like it's gonna move And now they can do stuff like we'll see. You never know. Sometimes they'll break a certain level and then all of a sudden everybody's interested. But wow. Microsoft is permanently closing its retail stores. Really? What are they going to do with the Microsoft store at the mall? That was one of the largest stores. They'll probably turn it into an Apple store. Wait, do they have an Apple store down at that mall? Not that anybody goes to the mall anymore anyway.
Pantax says what future instrument is best for evening and night trading.
Oh. Well, I mean, you can still trade the E-mini at night. But it kind of depends. Like one of the problems is that a lot of you guys want to do like that late afternoon trading when the Asian market starts. So you can get access to the Asian markets like the Nikkei and things like that. But I haven't found that to be, not that I've ever tried it, but when I look at charts and I've spoken to other people, it doesn't sound like the opportunity for that is really all that great. I actually, Futures Trader 71 got asked that in his last webinar, and that was kind of what he said too. Like, there's definitely way more opportunity at in the middle of the night in US time when the UK market opens. Then there's a little bit of opportunity, and then it just gets better and better and better until you get into the US time. But honestly, if you really want to trade, um, I think the best option is wake up early, trade before you go into work, because that's when the best opportunity is. And if you're in a good time zone, then
Gary Rich says the Dow is the crown jewel the world wants to invest money into. S&P, Nasdaq, Russell next.
you think so. I think that the Dow is a relic of old times that we don't even really need anymore and doesn't matter at all. So why do you like the Dow? Why do you think that the Dow is the crown jewel? Because I must be wrong and crazy. Oh, they're moving down so far. I don't know. So if they move down, like there's still that 30-50 level that's going to be, they had so much trouble with it yesterday, and so does previous resistance become support.
Winston's mom says I found a cool little aviation museum near you. Western Sky Aviation Warbird Museum. Sit in a MiG-15 cockpit.
There we go, yes.
Learn about warbird history. George, UT.
Trading Nation saying make or break moment for the big banks. One technician takes to the charts to explain the group's critical juncture. I like to discuss technical setups, but I should be really careful.
RJ Wheel says it's a cross-section of the anchor companies of American economy.
I really don't think in most of these cases that you can really say anything about it other than that that's a potential setup that other traders are going to be interested in. But I don't know what the result is going to be there, right? But you're almost certainly going to see some people buying support at 30.50, and then you see if they hold it, right? They're already doing well. That might just be the open swing. I don't know. But anyways, in the banks, it's the same thing. Like, we're in a spot on the chart where people are going to be really interested in where the banks go, but the chart has no ability to predict where it's going to go. The thing that's going to predict where it's going to go is the fundamentals. I don't know if things look so great for banks right now. Like, spreads are going to suck for a really, really long time. Yeah, I don't. Doesn't look good for them. I'm gonna blow my nose here, man. It's starting to itch. Just show you guys that.
Sunday Driver says you can't just throw away the Dow.
Sure I can. Why not? Why not? Because it has history. The S&P 500 is a better index in almost every way. What does the Dow have that the S&P 500 has more stocks, but it's still a high cap index. It's more representative of the economy.
RJ Wheels says, oh no, Seth is tearing down a monument.
I'm not tearing it down. You can still have it there. I'm just not going to I'm just saying I'm not going to go visit that monument. If you don't like the monument, just don't go and look at it. This is one of the things that I think is so the cancel culture. It really has turned
RJ
into
Wheels says funny.
to gone really to some extremes where the existence or non-existence of a statue is a huge deal. Who fucking cares? It makes me mad to see George Washington taken down. I am really concerned when I see people doing lawless things. They're damaging public property. Like, if you want a statue taken down, the right way to go about it is go to the city council.
Wheels says Dixie Chicks are now wait for it chicks.
Anyways, but I'm not going to cry myself to sleep over when they pull it down. I'm just like, oh well. If they don't put it up back, then oh well. I think they should if it's George Washington, but oh well, it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The Dixie Chicks. Now this one I don't get. So now, because the southern
Sunday
United
says
States,
Dow is the OG. Everyone follows the Dow.
No, I literally don't give a shit what the Dow is on any given day. Literally, I don't. And you know what? This is actually a thing, right? So when we were coming out of the 2008 crisis, and I was very much looking at like retracements and technical levels on the Dow, because the Dow seemed to be more respond to those technical levels. And I noticed on Twitter that a lot of people were talking about the S&P 500, and I was like, well, why? Well, there's more stocks in it. But I thought still, oh, you know what? The Dow is like, it matters. But then, I kept going and I started at Goldman Sachs and I talked to people and like they straight up told me that they don't even look at it. It's the Dow matters to retail traders. It matters to the news because they like to post the bigger number, but it's really not. It's really not useful. The S&P 500 index basically tells you more. And if you want to know like really really big, then you look at the Russell. Oh, you know what? I forgot that this week today is the Russell thing, huh? Today is the Russell. When was the... There it is. So do we have the newest list? Well, they're not posted. I'm not seeing it posted on their website. I haven't seen anything on Twitter. It's definitely out there though. So be careful. You're going to see like a lot of volume and it's probably going to be tight. And if it does move, it's going to move. Mm-mm. So there they're going into the 30-50 area now. Okay, I'm seeing gold is taking a hit.
Gary Rich says the Russell is an indication or bellwether of healthy American companies. They are not fully dependent on profits from overseas.
Mm. Yeah, I look at the Russell as more small cap, but yeah. I'm sure that over time the Russell will become more and more important. I mean, now they've got futures for it. That's happening for a reason. It would probably benefit us to study it a bit more, but the E-mini is the main show. Yeah, it kind of reminds me. I've been reading Gary Norton's book about technical analysis, and one of the things that he points out in many of these studies is that the technical analysis strategies that these studies that we're looking at almost always work better before the 90s. So the self-destructing theory, the idea that the market arbitrages out the how do you say that edge? I think that there's substantial evidence to say that that's what is happening. Like we've always talked about that on here on this stream that like, oh, you find something, but then the market is gonna find it too and take it out. And I think now after seeing that the evidence that Gary presents, I believe that is absolutely the case that that's what happens. If the Affordable Care Act is struck down, that would bring up Republicans and Democrats together. Probably not, because Democrats want socialism. They want it so bad. Oh, Gary did respond. For scalping type trade, liquidity must be a factor. Sure. Context is also an input. We have to bring together various pieces of info to find the best situations and avoid the bad ones. Well, but I think he's saying that past data doesn't matter. Okay, so now that they're getting into 48, we're getting a little bit of craziness, right? I'm in terms of like, does past resistance become support? That alone is not necessarily enough to tell us if that's what's happening or not. It certainly can't be encouraging for the people that thought that it was going to bounce there. Mm.
RJ Wheel says 3044 big number. Gary Rich says well we come to reality. I'm not saying TA is terrible and can't work for many. The rise of the quants has game changed everything.
Right? See, I'm trying to get inside of Gary's head, and I'm trying to get him to try and speak the same way that I do, so that I can understand what he really thinks. But I don't think that I can do it. I don't. I think that his brain just works fundamentally differently from mine. So I've got to figure out how to speak like him, and I don't understand what he's saying. So I'm reading here again. He says, for scalping type trades, liquidity must be a factor. I agree. Context is also an input. But what is
Sunday
context?
Driver says capitalism creates the surplus that provides oxygen to socialist desires. Once implemented, socialism consumes the surplus and is unable to create its own sustainable surplus. Socialism is death.
Good assertion. Sunday, I like your language there. We have to bring together various pieces of info to find the best situations and avoid the bad ones. I get that, but he says context is an input, and the question is, what is context? Because context becomes a vague term. I used to think of it, context, as like, okay, I'm taking a scalp here. I see a really big iceberg here at the height of the day, and so I'm going to buy it on expectation of a level break. And then it doesn't work. Maybe it goes just a little bit and it comes back. And then I say, oh, well, it didn't work. I should have realized the context was that we were range bound. Now, here's the issue, is that you don't know what the context was. When I say that context that I'm talking about is something that you don't know at the moment, right? This is something that you say later. When it ends up being a trend day, then you say, oh, well, I should have known that it was a trend day. But you didn't know that it was a trend day when you took that trade. How could you have known that it was going to be a trend day? Maybe somebody out there knew that it was going to be a trend day, but you didn't know. And so context for me was like this vague thing that like you always blame when the trade doesn't work out, right? But it can be anything. Whereas I'm trying to sit down and say, okay, data is data. Everything that you factor into making a trading decision is data. So how do you determine what you can do with the data and whatnot, right? Well, one thing is, the longer it's been since that data, the less useful it is. That's certainly something I think we could say, right? The older the data, the less useful it is? Maybe. I say the source of the data is a big deal. If it's generated by the exchange, which is like price and volume, that's one thing. If it's generated by the traders, which would be order flow, that's another thing. Those are all what I would consider the universe of technical analysis. If it's generated by the government, that's another thing, right? If it's generated by the government, it's probably a piece of information you should pay attention to.
RJ Wheels says don't agree. That thinking gets you on 30-second charts.
That you can't do it with anything that's, well, Gary Norton is saying that the chart doesn't matter at all. Gary Norton says, well, let me read you the previous one. Because we were talking about pivot points. I was saying pivot points are useless. I don't discuss pivot points in the new book. The weakness of them is just like
Gary
other
Rich
TA
says,
styles.
okay, Uncle Border Collie here to give a hint. Be careful of the 4 types 1 picks.
It ignores current context. It's a BS way to trade. And then I said, yeah, I thought you would like that. And then he said, context means we must always be in the moment trade the now. The whole premise of technical analysis is to use past actions. Therefore, context and technical analysis are never compatible, in my opinion. Right? So we're still getting at, okay, so what actually is context and what is not? Because is context that a 3,000 lot just went through in the treasuries? Well, technically, it's already happened, right? That particular thing, when you receive that data point, it's only current, technically, for like that small infinitesimal point in time that you got it. Even with level 2 data, frankly, what you get with level 2 data is just that one infinitesimal point in time. And it's going to change, and it's constantly changing. So isn't, in that respect, data is always past. Data tells you something about the past, always. What do you say? Is that piece of information still relevant to now? Becomes a difficult thing to pin down. So when he says that context means the now, you get what I mean? Obviously it makes sense to him in his mind, but I'm trying to sit down and be like, okay, what is like some vernacular that we can use that like everybody will understand? It doesn't work. So I don't know what to say back to him. It might be better to just be like, okay, just think about it for a while and come back and see what he thinks. I don't know. But we are learning one thing, and that is that the thing that he cares about is whether the information is current. What he calls current. So what makes it current? Mm-mm. Well, it's pretty choppy down in here. Still see gold dropping. Donald Trump is really, really trying to hammer on Joe Biden, saying that we have 120 million
Uzi
dead.
Knesset says trying to run a simple net depth histogram on a 1-second chart, keep getting the index out of range. Uzi Knesset says despite having a bar check in the code.
Why are you accessing an array?
Uzi Knesset says debug me on the fly daddy lol. Tenzin Norbu says is Gary Norton still coaching? I saw interview from him where he says it's better to trade short term only. RJ Wheels says tech is this. Repeatable patterns. I knew there was 75 PCT chance Amini would stop and turn at 3044. That is acceptable odds to place trade to or from.
Overwhelmed. Okay. Uzi. So the debug, I mean, maybe you have to send me your if you could go into Discord and send me the code, then we could do it. But you're gonna have somewhere you're gonna be accessing an array, an array value, and that's gonna be where you can get that error message. But if you're doing level 2 solely, you might not ever actually have to access an array. So I'd have to know a lot more about your script. RJ will. This is exactly the contention, though, right? The contention is that whatever percentage chance that the E-mini historically has had in that kind of a situation is irrelevant. It's past data, and it doesn't tell us what is going to happen in the future. Uzi says, I can run the whole thing off the on-market depth. I don't need an on-bar update, do I? Correct, Uzi. You technically don't need an on-bar update. Where I will do the on-bar update is like if I need something to reset at a certain point, then that's usually where it'll happen is an on-bar update. Well, RJ says, but Will says, but it worked. So you're still talking about something that happened. Don't do you? I don't know what to say. It doesn't sound to me from what you're saying that you understand the argument that Gary is making. Because the argument Gary is saying is, okay, it worked in the past. It worked today. Doesn't mean that it's going to work tomorrow. Because tomorrow might reflect different current conditions. Okay, this is kind of some interesting market velocity as they were coming down there. Stocks plunge, erase late date panic bid on Texas shutdown rumors. Well, Texas shutdown rumors would certainly be a good reason to try shorting it, especially if a bunch of people are expecting that level to hold. Now you gotta pivot at they call CP at 3042. RJ says, but that is what stops are for. Okay, but that doesn't mean that it will be a profitable strategy in the future. You can look at it and you can say it's worked for the past year, but now if you do that exact same trade every time for the next year, the context might be different and it might not be profitable anymore. Well, it is a pretty aggressive move down, but they're still coming back to the top end of this range here. One of the chickens outside is doing their egg song. I still look at it, even, I don't know. So there's that move down there. There probably is some news causing a little bit of volatility, but they seem to be holding it pretty well. It still looks pretty churny. Gary says not that hard. Ugh. Just reading the comments, I'm already seeing that they're saying, "Oh, it's all up here in your head. It's all having to do with your psychology." And I'm sitting here like, no. You can sit and think that, "Oh, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be successful." All you want, but if the strategy doesn't work, it doesn't work. If the trade is bad, the trade is bad. Like discipline. And give us another video. I can't play these. I'm too worried about potential takedowns. So Discipline is the holy grail. Well, it's certainly a prerequisite. U.S. governor ordering taverns to close in response to coronavirus cases surging. Okay. Well, they still seem to be holding it pretty well at an area where we would expect to see some support. But I don't have anything to tell me whether we're more or less likely to hold it. The fundamentals, particularly with the Russell rebalance, make this whole thing like really uncertain to me. Iran, there was an explosion around a nuclear research site. Was it an accident or sabotage? And they show a picture. It's quite an ominous picture. Okay. So I see there was some liquidity at 3044 that they hit into and bounced. And then the liquidity moved down. There is a bit of a sell, but it looks pretty tepid still. Let's see if they break here. If it increases, how many more people decide to take it there? So is Texas ordering bars closed and restaurants back to 50% capacity a big deal? Hmm. You know what? I do want to give a tweet back. No, I'm gonna think about it more. I'm gonna give it maybe Monday. Maybe Monday we'll think about it some more. Or maybe after we make our video, then I'll send it to him and we can talk to him about it more. Mm-mm. Well, they're trying to make it turn up here. I don't know if they're having a whole lot of success. Or now's a good time to look at how much is traded through here. So there was about 12,000 at 30.50. So they were definitely trying to hold that pivot. They're like those support resistance area, but they made it through it. But now that they've made it through it, I'm unsure if they can continue through. Which is interesting because oftentimes when you get through a liquidity area like that, it's really obvious then at that point that they're just going to just keep going. Florida cases are due at the bottom of the hour. The last 2 Fridays marked record highs. Democrats dominate stumble in consumer sentiment in late June. Pointing out the big bid in the 10-year, they're saying the U.S. 10-year has closed lower in yield once since late May. Watch the huge 0.65 area. Okay, so there's another little slightly lower low. It does look like that's just going to pull them down, and like we said, if I think now it would maybe be safe to start taking well, so now we're running into the issue of how late are you to the game, right? I think though, given the context of the day and the apparent reason that they seem to be going down, we could probably take one at 30.40. I'm just going to stick to no trades this week or next week, but I'm just going to mark it. Joe Biden and I would do everything possible to make it required that people had to wear masks in public. And Cat Turd says if you want to spend the rest of your life in a mask that doesn't work, vote for Village at ESGraph and sniff Joe Biden. I think it's so funny that people on the far right are pushing this whole you shouldn't wear masks, that they, as though they think that that is a reason that people are going to vote for them. This is a losing issue, guys. And I don't care what your personal opinion is on masks. I'm just telling you straight up, it's a losing issue. Just drop it.
Gary Rich says on that right corner chart, it's bounced 4 times that's area of support and they will defend it till it's broken temporarily.
Bot says I'd say you're about 3 hours late looking at the chart from 7 a.m. Eastern this morning.
Well, if you wanted to get the high, sure. Oh, that X was from a previous day, so let's get rid of that one. I mean, 5 points right there, I think I'd be satisfied with that. And we should come back down in here and go into our range, but trading view. $30.30 is a good target. $30.30 and then 3,000. Ooh, it's so tempting. 3,000 looks so juicy. It's possible. I don't know if I could make that bet. 30.40 to 30.30 makes sense.
Gary Rich says and what did they do? They broke the support area of that one range chart Seth has up.
Man, are you talking about this one right here? They bounced and then had faked down. Banks drag Wall Street lower. Is that what they're saying on CNBC? Gap stock soars after Kanye West totes collaboration with his fashion brand Yeezy. That's the top story. That's the picture story. Top story is stocks fall to lose of the day, wealth the Dow dropping 400 points. Yeah, you don't do CNBC. So what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, so here's this one is kind of interesting. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but here's my take on it for today. So what are some things that what are some fundamental, let's call it context, but I want to be more specific. What are some pieces of data that we know about today and what can drive the action? It's Friday, so there are things that we know about Friday, right? Some people don't want to hold positions into the weekend. It's the end of the month, so some people are doing rebalancing of their portfolios. It is the Russell rebalance day, so there's definitely people going out and catching stuff, buying some and selling some things to be more in line with the Russell index, and there's a lot of volume today. So if we get a move, you can get a really extreme move volatility-wise because there are institutions that have to buy and sell things today, and they end up chasing. Okay? So that's the context. But then the other context is that we had this strong move up at the end of the day yesterday. So that might have just been a short squeeze. So we don't know if that really matters a whole lot. But we do know that probably when they get into that area that there's going to be a bunch of people trying to hold it as support. And you can see here it did 1-1. And then here it held through and it kind of held a little bit of support here. And then it kind of fell out. So to me, I'm expecting the day to be range bound. But there's a possibility of the shoe dropping. And I think that right here at this point at 30.40 is where I say, okay, now it's the week is negative. Okay, now they're going to start chasing. So there's 30.30. So that was target one. I think based on my trade, well, so this one is tough because I think that there's a lot that could push us further. But once we're past that, if I start seeing a really strong liquidity zone, okay, yeah, I am. I'm going to take it off at 30.30. There's some tepid liquidity down in here. Oh, okay, maybe not. Normally I want to be like see 1,000. But now they're buying, the treasuries are buying up. CNBC isn't good for tech or fundamental trading. It's not, but I think it's really good to get I actually learned a lot. If you watch CNBC all day, you just have to know how to filter out the noise. But I think that what they put on CNBC tends to be like the market theme. You know what I mean? Okay. So so it's not. I would at the very least let's move our thing down, so like we can risk. Actually, what we can do is because it's below 30.30, we can move it there because that's where our target was, and then see if it runs. I think that's a great way to do it. So let's do that. So if they're able to push back to 30.30, then that is to take the profit. Okay. And there was like a 400 there or 400 there. So I'm going to say, yep, you take it. Okay. So in the end, now context-wise, we might see a much further drop. I don't really know. I don't know enough about the tendencies on a Russell day and what the imbalances are to say whether they can really push us down measurably or not. I'm certainly sitting here looking at it and thinking, well, if today ends up being a bad day and they go below 3,000, then it could be it could be very, very negative for the market. Now, I was thinking earlier when we were going through that whole thing was because it was like, well, could you take it short at 30.73, for instance? But that's where I'm saying, unless you really felt strongly that the coronavirus cases were going to affect the market today, and I didn't really know that until they were starting to push through that area anyways. So I think that my entry was okay still. Well, 30.25 looks a little better liquidity wise. There's definitely more orders going through there in that area. Treasuries are still pushing though. So it's still signs that it's going to trend. We may be starting to get into the point where the liquidity that you see is just no way to know how far it's going to go. But we do have another target below us. My, oh my. They wiped that out so fast, guys. That is a really fast move. That's about as bad as Wednesday. It is. Oh man. So remember, yesterday's low was 3,005. Sorry, I haven't been reading you guys' message.
Tenzin Norbu says it's funny. I thought the right is for order. They should consider how wearing masks has brought so much benefits to countries in Asia recently which are pretty conservative societies. Gary Rich says at RJ oops I guess YM wasn't so much a dead dog day.
Sunday Driver says most people want to wear masks. Saying it's the right is only partially true. I see a lot more young people not wearing masks, and most of them are liberal.
Really?
Now, the young virus victims are soaring.
Sure. I just don't understand the logic in people that they say, okay, the government wants us to wear masks. I don't think that we should have to. So even though it's a really trivial thing, I think that this is where I should stake my flag. This is the issue that I care about, whether or not we are required to wear masks.
RJ
No.
Wheels says yeah I wish I held got a piece that's turning into a sliver. Uzi Knesset says young virus victims are soaring because the youth have been protesting for a month lol.
Probably. This is not pick and choose your battles, guys. If you listen, think about it this way, okay? You have strong opinions. You say things that people don't like. The more that you say things that people don't like, the more they're going to hate you. So, sometimes you have to come back and say things that people do like so that they don't completely hate you all of the time. And when you say those things that you do like, that gives you capital so that you can then turn around at a later date and spend that capital on saying something that people don't like. So, if you have a certain amount of capital and every time that you say something that people don't like, you're expending that capital, why would you spend that capital on whether or not people wear masks? Of all of the issues, of all of the things that you could focus on right now, why invest your capital in that issue? It makes zero sense. People don't like it, and it doesn't provide any benefit to you. And it really doesn't, frankly, doesn't help society. It's like people wear them or they don't wear them. Oh, well, who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Okay. Like to me, a, a, a fair way that I would spend that capital is proving that Black Lives Matter is a communist group. Okay. Because I don't want the country to be taken over by communists. So to me, I'm okay with being hated for saying that Black Lives Matter is a communist group because it's true and people need to know it, right? Maybe that's a wise investment of capital. Statues, I mean, I get the argument that people are saying, but I really don't think that it matters. Save your capital for something else. Now, in fact, quite frankly, now is an easy time to gain capital. It's an easy one. Everybody wants us to be safe from the virus. It's a trivial thing that doesn't matter. Just say, hey, well, yeah, you should wear masks. It's a good thing. We need to all do our part. And then everybody loves you and you get more capital to go and spend on something later. Right? From a strategic perspective, going anti-mask is just dumb. I'm sorry. And here I am, I'm doing the same thing. I'm saying something that I know some of you guys on the right aren't going to like because you probably don't like the whole mask thing. But I think it's worth it to get you to think about, okay, yeah, if we want to win an election, we need to spend our intellectual capital effectively.
RJ Wheels says most of those are staking Confederate flags to boot.
Right. Yeah.
RJ Wheels says me too Uzi. Uzi Knesset says I am on the right. I wear a mask. It's a dumb thing to worry about.
Okay, as long as we're all on the same page. I've seen a few people on Facebook making a big deal out of it. And I've seen a lot of people like liberals saying, "Oh, it's such a big problem that nobody's like everything would be fine if we all just wore masks, but you guys aren't doing it." And I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a problem. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not sure that's a problem. By the way, the 5-year is starting to get some crazy liquidity holding it up. Like I don't think that I've seen a switch in the liquidity like that before.
Sunday Driver says I wear a mask or a bandana. I live in a hot zone and it's always young people not wearing masks. I also carry a Glock, but that's because I'm naturally cautious. Lol.
What was I missing over here? Can you point me to a place? Tell me more about calculating that. Dum-ba-dum-ba-dum. That, don't need that. Don't need that. Texas restaurant usage is shrinking again. Okay, so we're gonna get those Florida numbers, right? So I think I would be sitting here with like a little stop entry somewhere down here, like 30.25 would be great. I would move it because I would want to see like a move, but if you get a move and then just go with it.
Uzi Knesset says 11 a.m. our numbers drop. Tenzin Norbu says you are pretty logical, but I feel so much compassion for an emotionally driven society.
Well, I have a suppressed limbic system from taking ADHD medications, so I am much more logical about it. What so but is this is on masks. But I mean that's the thing. That's the thing is that if you think about it logically, it gives you a huge advantage over the people that are just acting on their emotions, you know? Okay, well, I don't know if that was it. So I don't know if that whole, put a stop at 30.25 would actually work or not. Let's say for the sake of argument that you put it in and it happened. I'm not seeing the Florida number come through yet. What is it that happens at 9 o'clock? I don't know. I'm pretty sure that the Florida numbers are coming in soon, any second now.
Uzi Knesset says 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
I'm pretty sure that the
Uzi
Florida
Knesset
numbers...
says they update our dashboard.
Okay. Because the thing that I was getting previously was that it should come out any minute now.
Sunday Driver says I got the Audio Technica at M50X headphones.
Hell yeah.
They are very nice. Listening to multi-dimensional stories through headphones is amazing.
Hell yeah. Get fucking wrecked. 3,000, please, sir. That's volatile. That had to have been the Florida number. That had to have been. I don't see it on Twitter yet. Okay. Oh, yeah. Florida cases rise 7.8% versus 7-day average of 4.1. Again, Florida cases rise 7.8% versus a previous 7-day average of 4.1. That was about as bad as it could possibly have been. I think 3,000 for sure and below, frankly. I shouldn't have hubris here. 3,000. 3,000. Let's see. They might, they could retrace and be really whippy around here. So the Florida cases is getting bad. U.S. 10-year at 0.6479%. And the treasuries took a good jump up there too. Here they're being a little sketch about it, but I think they're gonna fall through there. Yeah. In fact, somebody just said, no, I wanted to go.
Sunday Driver says the fake moon landing crowd pushed the no mask issue to the forefront.
Is that
I
what
still
it
think
is?
the BLM riots caused this spike.
Oh, I do too. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever be able to prove that, but I do too. It's all kids getting it from the stats that I've seen. Okay, so that was a good new low, but they're pretty whippy pullback. I think this is one where it's like, okay, now it's super volatile. Since we got a good spot, if we had taken that at 25, move it to break even and just let it go, because it's likely to be volatile and then move down to the VIX target. So just let it do its thing. If Florida were a country, it would rank 4th in daily cases after the US, Brazil, and India. Ugh. So it's getting bad in Florida. You see that right back down?
Uzi Knesset
Volatile.
says, oh no, I am gonna die.
No, Uzi, no, not Uzi. We can remember when we calculated based off of the death rate that we would have at least one viewer die, and if it's Uzi, I'll be so upset.
RJ Wheel says they think BLM stands for Biden likes masks.
Oh my gosh. I do kind of wonder. You know what? I have a theory. Crazy theory. My conspiracy.
Uzi
Listen,
Knesset says it'll be fine.
even Seth
Uzi
has crazy
Knesset
theories.
says I am not lucky enough to die.
Oh, stop saying those sorts of things, Uzi. We care and love you so much. And I would be so heartbroken if you weren't here anymore. But let's focus on something good. I have a theory. I believe that the Donald win has a significantly higher amount of Russian trolls than the Donald did when it was on Reddit, because when it was on Reddit, they benefited from the platform banning Russian trolls and so forth. And because they don't have that anymore, you are getting people that are intentionally coming in and trying to stir things up. Some things that I see on the Donald win that I did not see before on the subreddit. People pushing for civil war all the effing time. And I mean, I understand that on Reddit it was like not okay to do that, and so they weren't doing it. But there people bring it up in contexts where it makes zero sense. It's totally seems to me like people trying to get other people riled up. And another thing is the masks. The masks, it makes no sense, but they're treating it like, if you're a Donald Trump supporter, you don't wear the mask. Donald Trump never said crap about that. Of course, you can tell that he doesn't want to wear the masks, but he didn't say, hey, don't wear masks, So, yeah, that's my crazy theory. Seems plausible, right? But it is just a theory. Can't prove it. 3,000, please. Now, we would be careful. There's going to be, at 05, there's going to be a bounce, probably.
Tenzin Norbu says when the US goes into chaos the rest of us are screwed. I wish you all well.
Oh, thank you, Tenzin. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Everybody says that it's always like, even if Joe Biden gets elected, listen, I'm going to be really mad. I'm going to be really unhappy about some of the things that they'll try and put through, but we will live through it. Always do and always will. And stay optimistic.
RJ Wheels says saw the Greenland trailer this morning. Scary.
The Greenland trailer. What's that? We're going to go camping in Greenland? With a trailer? Because that sounds fun. I think go to one of those places with the hexagonal rocks. Oh, I would like to do that.
RJ Wheels says comet hits Earth.
Oh. Well.
Bot says.
Let's kind of chart here. When you've been posting your charts recently, I'm not quite sure I understand what I'm supposed to even see. We definitely. You're looking at the ad and the VIX. The VIX is getting. Oh, yeah. Okay, so I totally get why you're posting this. Because I can't see the VIX. The ad, the advanced decliners, I haven't looked at it, but it looks bad. Negative 2,000 now. I think that's the lowest I've ever seen it. Oh, no. It was this Wednesday?
Sunday Driver says the Romans were probably saying, all will be well, always has, always will be, just before the fall.
2,500. So we're almost as dramatic as it was on Wednesday in ad. And the VIX, you're getting above 35 now. Above 35. And 35 is kind of a level that where it starts to turn into crazy town, right? Always be well, always has, always will be. I guess. I'm not saying that there aren't things that can happen that can destroy the US, but I just don't think that Joe Biden becoming president is the thing that's going to do it. That's all. The only reason that it would be is if you guys all get yourself worked up into saying that it's going to be the end of the world if Joe Biden becomes president.
RJ Wheels says has Texas released info?
I don't know if Texas has released info, but I don't know if the Texas info matters so much because Texas is closing down the restaurants anyways. So I don't know what else they would be doing or what it would tell us that Texas might do. I mean, I think at this point, though, the thing is like, why isn't Florida doing anything? They should be at this point, right? And we bounced off of 3010.
Uzi Knesset says the Roman Empire was a 5 times smaller than the US is today, lol.
So, 3005 was the low of yesterday, and there could be another bounce there. But the VIX target is 3,000.
Sunday Driver says, is anyone talking about cultural and social cohesion? On the right, they are sitting on their hands. On the left, they are kneeling to BLM. No one is doing what is needed.
Uzi Knesset says it'll take more to topple our society than it took to topple the Roman Empire.
I agree with that one. How do I prove that one? I don't know. Like, there's the whole thing is like, we can point out things that are like, okay, there's this piece of information, but what is it about that piece of information that necessarily leads to B? This is the whole thing. A doesn't have to lead to B. There's like you could say they're correlated. Like that's the issue with technical analysis most of the time, is that we can say A leads to B 80% of the time. That doesn't mean that A causes B. Frankly, B might cause A. Or it could just be random chance.
RJ Wheels says if Rome had Fox News, they'd still be enjoying their baths and gladiator games.
I know, right? It's all their fault. We could have the gladiator games on television.
Bot says the Roman Empire didn't have a gold coin printing press. Sunday Driver says the US society is totally leveraged, and there is no cultural cohesion. Just a stupid not very deadly virus has put us on the skids.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm seeing a Zero Hedge pointing out that the USD is going nuts. I see it now at 39.37. Am I not getting updated data or something? No, I am. And it's just not as crazy as that. Now, gold is coming back. Gold took a big hit, and gold is coming back. But the treasuries, I don't know, guys. This one keeps being interesting because people come in and say, yeah, gold has been a good safe haven trade, and everybody's always interested in
Sunday
gold.
Driver says I can tell you this. I'm moving from the city.
Oh, there, yeah.
Uzi Knesset says my wife's friend's brother has COVID. He's a pothead. Says it's annoying but not terrible, lol.
If the mayor of your city or county is a Democrat,
Sunday Driver
move.
says I can tell you. Gold is going to $5,000.
That's my opinion right now.
Trader says, hey, I am back.
You know, in Salt Lake, they have a mayor that's Democrat, and they're doing stuff like they're defunding the police and things. If I happened to live downtown Salt Lake right now, I would be trying to move. But I don't live there. I live in a Republican area, so I'm safe. Wow, Florida reports 9,000 cases in a single day? So they're well past New York craziness then. Oh, I would love to lock in my interest rate. Today would be a great day to do it. Maybe next week will be even worse. Hey, so you know what, Gary? We were talking the other day about
Uzi Knesset says it's funny. You wouldn't notice it out and about.
And you were saying, you know, if you could get below 3.5, that would be great. They were quoting below 3 to me. They were quoting below. I don't know if that's what it's going to be when we go to sign, but they were quoting below 3 to me. And I like my chances of a lower interest rate at this moment. I could be wrong, but at this moment, I like my chances. You know what I mean? Like, I think the downside on that trade is limited, right?
Stephen Wright says I just got 3.125.
Oh, that's not
Bot
bad,
says S
Steve.
may finally be forming an initial pivot low here, but hasn't yet.
I mean, I'm gonna get, if I get like a whole 1% lower interest
Sunday
rate.
Driver says didn't DeSantis say that Florida beat the virus just about a month ago?
Oh yeah, dude, Texas and Florida, and frankly Utah got some egg on their faces.
Winston's mom says 2.75% UP. For me.
Oh, you got 2.75? You must have gotten a special extra deal. Like, it must be like, so part of it for me is that it's, you know, I think that they say that like if the house is over 400,000 or something like that, then the interest rate is automatically higher no matter what. But I suppose if you had a house that was under that, and you were like an existing customer, then yeah, I guess maybe 2.75 would make sense. That's how I was getting below 3, was they were giving me an existing customer discount. Okay, so it was a pretty good down bar there, but not touching lows yet. Let's move it so we can see it. It's funny when we're at the 30 area and I was saying, well, I don't, and there maybe it'll go further, but I don't know, and maybe we could try and let it run or whatever. But like they came back to that 30 a bunch of times before they plunged down to here. It's almost like I'm talking about it. They're like, okay, fine, so that's talking about it. Let's chop around here a little bit, convince him to get out
E-Trader
first.
says made $3,000 on my demo on S.
Hey, dude.
Winston's mom says VA refinance. Uzi
Oh,
Knesset says
VA.
everyone will get egg on their faces. Closed states will reopen. Cases will spike again. It's not a matter of if but when. We're laughing at each other for nothing.
You might be right, Uzi. I was always...
Bot says still have not had a bar close above a prior bar's high since this move started at 9:30 Eastern Time.
Oh, really? Wait, on a 5-minute chart or because I see pivots on my 1-minute chart. In fact, I'm getting this thing that I've noticed is that like you'll start getting
Bot
them
says 5
a
minutes.
ton. Yeah, you'll start getting them a ton. Like look at them up in here. You're getting
Bot
them a
says in
ton.
15 minutes.
A ton. It's extremely volatile market right now. So the way to have played
Ace Trades
this.
says whatever you do, don't ask me where I am short from.
Where are you short from? Wait, are you short from higher than 3040? Because 3040 was where I was saying, okay, now I think we can take it short. Oh, he must have taken. Wait. I can guess. I can figure it out.
Winston's mom says 23 watching now. Started streaming 2 hours ago. Please hit like.
Are
Thanks.
you short from
Ace Trades
3078?
says 3043.50.
Oh, okay. That's reasonable. Okay. It was about the same spot as me. But you know what? I haven't been trading. If I was trading in, we were talking theoretically there, I might have gotten scared out at 30.30. So now that we're kind of below that, I'm holding out for below 3,000. But, each one of those steps is probably less likely. I didn't see, I don't know. What is it that you can see that will tell you for sure to get out? I don't know if there is any guarantee. You know what I mean? There's a decent amount of volume trading at 30.15 though. So that would be one thing that would make me think maybe I should get out here. It would definitely maybe you should get out. So maybe you take another 15 points. Okay, cool. China messages that U.S. pressure could jeopardize
Ace
purchases
Trades
of
says
U.S.
nothing.
exports.
It's a guess. E-Trader says, Seth, I really want to see you trading. I just joined your channel this week and I'm really curious about your strategy and your mindset. You are different from others in terms of analyzing the market.
You think so?
Ace Trades says agreed. I got most of my cars stopped at 3,030.
Oh, you did? Yeah, it's like they know that's where everybody's putting the liquidity out, and so they grab our liquidity first, and then it moves lower. They just being the market in general. I'm not saying that there's like some group of insiders chopping it around or anything, but you might as well think of it that way because the market needs the liquidity, I guess. Yeah. Oh, you've been around earlier than that, E-Trader. Weren't you around last week when I was taking some sim trades? But I'm glad to know that you're thinking, you take it a different approach from other people. I'm
Ace
still
Trades says
working it
tough
out.
life when you need to pack for a backpacking trip, but have to stick around to trail stop a winner. Lol.
Bot says move appears to have stopped 2 ticks above the prior day's low 3005.00 at 3005.50 for now.
Yeah. But where do you have the VIX target? Because I have the VIX target at almost exactly at 3,000. That's why I'm sitting here like that 3,000 level is a big level for some people, right? If they get below 3,000, and we
eTrader
have
says
so
nope, I just
much.
joined Monday.
Bot
Oh,
says
okay.
57.75 point RTH range. Sunday driver says I'm going to pull my considerable fortune all in gold and silver. Physical. Then, I'm going to buy a homestead out west. I'll watch the world burn and feed my chickens and goats.
Your chickens and goats. I would enjoy some. I want them fainting goats. Goats are weird creatures, though, man. They got those weird eyes. I don't know. I was like, I'm not. I'm not going to talk about what I just thought. Um. So yeah. I mean, some of what I'm doing is still a work in progress. So I mean, it's been a slow build. I've always been more interested in fundamentals than other traders, right? But I was still very much relying on technical analysis for my setups and things like that. And now I'm really taking like a completely different approach, right? Like the market has to do something that tells me that there's this piece of news and it has dislocated people and we're moving for me to want to take it. And my change in mentality to I need to see current news affecting the markets has helped a lot. I don't think that it's completely solves all the problems, but I think that I've been doing better because when we were doing it based on like the time frame continuity kind of stuff, like we had some good days, but there was so many days where I felt like I got lucky and I wasn't happy with it. And with this, I feel like I'm happy about it almost every day that there's a move. Okay, so that was a pretty good stop run right there. I'm actually thinking that they
Ace
will get
Trades says at
below.
Winston's mom howdy dear. Ace Trades says at you. Ace Trades says at Sunday driver then you will miss the point of life.
Bot says minus 100% VIX target at
Oh, I missed a
2,999.00.
bunch of messages, huh?
Bot says minus 50% VIX target was 3,030.00.
Ace Trades says alpacas, goats, chickens, welcome to Speculator Ranch. Winston's mom says, it is more fun to talk with someone who doesn't use long, difficult words but rather short, easy words like, what about lunch? A.A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh Honeypot High, Ace Trades.
Oh, that's funny. No, so anyways, what was I getting at? Um one of the things that got me into thinking the mentality that I am now was I went back and I reread Gary Norton's An
Ace
End to the
Trades says at
Bull.
Winston's mom how are you and yours?
I went back and now we're exceeded the quota. I went back and I watched a couple of his Futures IO videos and I said, well, technical analysis doesn't work. And I think that maybe even some of the things that I'm using with order flow really fall under the category of technical analysis. I'm trying to apply technical analysis to liquidity, which doesn't make much sense. So I changed it up and then said, no, well, I'm just going to try and absorb as much fundamental information as I can and then see if I see the trades. And so far it's been working. We'll see if it stays up in how we do. I think we need more data. Okay. But so that got me started on it. And then Gary Norton had this book. It's a free ebook called Technical Analysis Exposed. And he makes a lot of arguments against technical analysis. Now, the book is not perfect. So there's a couple of problems with the book because, in terms of persuasion, because if you're a person that really believes in technical analysis, you're going to read his book and you're going to say, well, this is a scarecrow. He's he's looking at technical analysis traders that don't have a good um, edge, we'll say, and doing the things that they say and do that are wrong and then trying to say that that's all of technical analysis, which would be a fair criticism. And I think he understands that even because he kind of hints at that he's trying to overcome that criticism. But then that's why at the end he goes, wow, that was a really strong buy, by the way. That is okay. Hold up. What was that? I don't know what caused that. Anyways, so I'm reading his book and I'm thinking I'm on it, and so we had a situation on Wednesday where it worked really well, and I tweeted at him, "Hey, here is an example of a technical analysis indicator based on closing price that failed really, really hard yesterday. And we were able to predict that it was going to fail using fundamental analysis." Wanted to see what he thought and if he liked it. I hope he liked it. I hope he watched the video and watched those parts and was like, "Hey, that's like a good trade. Good job." Because I really respect him, and I've been trying to um what is the word, mirror? I don't know, base. I've been using him as the person to emulate. There you go. I've been trying to emulate him, but I don't think I know enough about how he actually trades to say that that's what I'm doing. So then I tweet him and he starts saying some stuff, and we already talked about that earlier, but you know, it seems to him, to me, I say, look at the source of your information. Okay. There's the information that's generated by the exchange matching algorithm, which is price and volume. There's also information that we could still consider technical information, but is generated by the traders, and that is the orders. Okay. And then there's other information that comes from outside of the market, like from the government and from news and all of these. These are fundamental information, right? And so I'm thinking right now, you want to use all pieces of information that you can, but that you have to understand how those different pieces of information affect the market. And the information that you get from price, for instance, is just a fractal sort of a thing. But it's pretty trivial compared to when the whole landscape underneath of it changes and the fundamentals change. So it's better to sit and understand the fundamentals better than other people. And because not very many people are trading off of the fundamentals, I think that it's more fertile ground. That's where I've been doing it. But when I look at Gary and see what he's talking about, he talks about context, which I hate the word context just because it's so vague. But it seems like what he cares about is whether the piece of information is in the moment or not. Basically, he's saying that most of the things that we look at, like technical analysis, there was a certain amount of liquidity at a price yesterday. He's saying doesn't matter anymore. It's not current information. That's what he seems to care about. So now I'm trying to, so do we adjust this? And I'm saying, we should always use the most recent information, but here's how we need to look at the market as a whole. I don't know. So I think what I need to do is make my video and I'll just send it to him, see what he thinks. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thing. Seth will need ferrets on his ranch. They make great rabbit and rat exterminators. Great. If I had like a separate house or something that could be smelly, and then we could have ferrets, because I think ferrets would be fun. Okay, so they went down and tried to touch that 3005 again, and they're turning back up. And now they have finally, at last, touched up against that EMA at 3020. That does not mean that was the low of the day, but that was a pretty good touch. In fact, I actually, given that the treasuries aren't coming back down, I'm kind of a little suspicious. Like maybe this is a good spot to go short again. CB managed to get within 7 ticks of the closing rollover gap. Yeah, and see that's where it's like, it's an interesting thing. It's like, okay, so there's a rollover gap. That's a piece of data that we know. Piece of data is there's a rollover gap. So then the question is, how important is that piece of data to us right now? Gary Norton's argument is it's something that happened a month ago and doesn't matter, especially since the gap was created by the previous contract. I don't know. Might be more complicated than that. I'm the most recent in the market's memory is a well-known adage. Yeah, but then you're getting into the other argument. So that's one of the things that I think is interesting is that I don't, Gary doesn't, even though it's technical analysis exposed, he's very careful to never say that you can't make money using technical analysis because he knows that you can make money randomly. But he also talks about it when they really get into the studies. And I haven't finished it yet, but his big thing was that he was pointing out that studies from, they would take a study. There was one study that he talked about where they tried 40,000 different tests. And then they took the one that worked at the best. But the one that worked at the best wasn't even like there was a period where it had a 20% drawdown. And it just happened to be the best. And then if they were to take it another year further, then which one was the best would change. But the thing that's interesting is that they the rules as a general rule worked better in the 70s and 80s than it did in the 90s and the 2010s. And for those of you that don't know what an adage is a saying that's for the general truth that has gained credit through long use. Yeah, so the assertion that he's getting there is that the reason that technical analysis may have been finding what is the word, inefficiencies in the market, but because we have computers and so forth now, we have essentially arbitraged the technical analysis edge away, is what he's saying. Well, it's not what he's saying. He was just pointing that out. I believe it though. My current position is that the general edge that you could gain from technical analysis has almost completely been arbitraged away. And that you might be able to find something, but that it's not worth searching. Oh, Uzi, we have the link. Here's how I calculate it. Oh, wait, you have NinjaTrader. Message me. What is your name on Discord, Uzi? I don't know if you've talked to me on Discord before. If you give me a message on Discord, I will just send you the indicator. You have to have VIX data. You have to have VIX data, but if you just message me, I will just give you the script. If you don't have VIX data, then you can. Oh, I don't have it. I guess I don't have it. Hold on a second. I thought it was still in my base, but it's not. Okay. So, as I was saying, if you message me on Discord, I'll give you the script. And if you don't have VIX data, then you can just look at it on TradingView with this indicator right here that I'm linking in the chat. Can anyone tell me if the resistance level of the S&P is 3080? Well, my friend, we're well past 3080. Like, I'm new to trading and I'm not sure if I got it right. So, Kenny, I'm the wrong person to ask that question because my take on markets is that you can't really rely on a level that's based on past action. So I could show you where people are going to think that it is, for sure. but then I'm going to show you why it doesn't matter, right? So here, no, we come back. Actually, let's do it on this chart. Let's do it on this chart. Okay. So a technical analyst is going to sit down and they're going to say, okay, how do I get let's do a labeled array. They're going to come in and they're going to say, okay, look, here's this triple top right here. Oh, let me fix that. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Okay, look. Here's this place where we've gotten highs a bunch of times before. And then we've got over here labeled horizontal line. Okay. And then on the downside, we've got this spot right here. Oops. Right there. Okay. 3050, 3051, right? So the general consensus is going to be this is resistance and this is support. But look, it came to support. Second test of support. Blew right through it. They came to resistance 3 times and couldn't get through it. Well, I mean, we know that after the fact, but say they were right here. How do you know that it's not going to do this? And my contention is you can't. I've done a bunch of back testing. I've tried a bunch of different things, and in all of my investigation, I have found nothing that can consistently give you a good probability of predicting what it's going to do at that spot based only on market information. So my suggestion is don't use it. What I do is I completely ignore any kind of past level other than to acknowledge that it's there and that people will be noticing it and that we might see a reaction there. But until I see trades happening there, I don't care. When I see trades happening there, then I start to look at stuff, right? Then I start coming over here and go, okay, how much actually traded there? Actually, it should come back over here. So that's when I like this footprint chart, for instance. Okay. A lot traded at 30.50. That's like a good sign that we've reached a low because they've distributed, essentially, right? 18,000 is a lot. That's one of the bigger ones that I've seen. Right. And that's when I start doing it. And I'm looking at, I guess now based off of what Gary is saying, I'm trying to look at the most up-to-date information that I can to see what it is. So there's going to be different things that tell us how good a piece of information is, how influential it is. So if it's fundamental data, it's going to be more influential. If it's more recent data, then it's going to be more influential. Structure and technical analysis is worthless simply because new strong buyers and sellers can come at any moment at any level. Point is, you need to be able to read that in real time. Well, yeah. So, but then at that point, Gian, how does that not make it like, okay, Kenny says, cool, thank you for explaining that. Yeah, no problem. So you could say, I mean, people are always going to have different thoughts on where support and resistance is. Just realize, I think Gianna in his first thing there, he's got a good point. You can look at where buyers and sellers came in the past, but buyers and sellers can come in at any time, and it's not really, I mean, how do you know that they're going to do that? They themselves don't know that they're going to do that yet because they haven't done it. You know what I mean? So it's hard to predict that sort of a thing. But what I can do is I can say, okay, I know that the release from the Florida cases is likely to be bad, And we've already broken a key level that other people are looking at. So I can go short on the expectation that the market is not going to like that number. And then when that number comes out, I can look at it and I can say, oh, that's a really bad number. And when other people see that number, they're going to think, I don't think I want to be long going into the weekend. Right? And I can predict what people are going to do when they read the information. And because I can read the information faster and I can interpret it faster, I can generate edge from that. But to what Gian was saying, that you need to be able to read that in real time. I mean, I do think that's a thing because I watch the DOM and I look at when people are buying and selling, what's happening right now. But I've also found that that is still a technical analysis. And so that's where we have to go back and we have to say, it's not like technical analysis is useless. I don't think that it is useless. It's just that, one, the amount of edge that it can provide is very small. And two, that small edge has almost completely been arbitraged out of the market. So even when I'm looking at on a really short time frame and I'm just watching the DOM and I'm watching the liquidity and the orders hit and everything, I have to realize that even though I can tell some things from that, and I've been able to get, above a 40 to 45% win rate, which with a good risk reward can be profitable, doing just that. But if I really want to be successful, I should base my trades starting with a fundamental premise and then using those other things to kind of, filter a little bit. I shouldn't take it short here because this is a pivot point. And so they're going to try and bounce it a little bit, and I should be able to get a little bit higher. Right? Um, might not be a good idea to hit into this particular price because there's an iceberg there that looks like it's going to hold or whatever it is. You can filter things out, adjust your positioning a little bit better, but that's not why you're taking the trade. But then how do you know when to buy or sell? Like if you look at the S&P, it should move back up, right? But it doesn't. I don't get that. Well, yeah, no, you're totally okay, Kenny. I think I understand what you're saying. So my answer to that question is I don't know. I know based on implied volatility that we were likely to touch 30-30. Now, sometimes if it's a really strong day, we should be able to hit the target of 3,000. So would be leaning towards that we're still going to have another move down and we're going to hit 3,000 and below. But because it's the second VIX target, that's a piece of information that is not as right. The importance or strength of that piece of information is a little bit less. So we know that the probability of that actually working out is a little bit less. And since the market has already reacted to the news that we got, unless I have another piece of fundamental news that comes across my newswire, I probably don't have a really good idea of whether or not it's going to go down there or not. I do know that if I wanted to sell it and that we were going to get 3,000, that getting it anywhere above that EMA, so anywhere above 3021 would be a good thing. I do know that, but as to whether or not I want to take it or not, I don't have enough to say that that should be. So I don't know if it's going to move back up or if it's going to go down lower or what. That depends on people's positioning and whether there is further news. But I guess there's another piece of information that we're forgetting there, right? And that is that when we came back over in here and we looked at our footprint on an hourly basis, that there was about almost 20,000 on both the bid and the ask that traded at 30.16. And there's a lot through that whole area between 10 and 16. So there's a strong amount of liquidity in that area that could cause us to bounce up, or that could push things lower if they're finally able to get back down to the lows again. So that is something that we know from positioning, that there's people with positions there, and we might be able to get something from that. But in order to move away from that area, in order for us to know that they're going to move away from that area, we have to have a reason for them to do it. Otherwise, it could move away from that area and it might move them, but it could be random. And if they don't have a reason to move, you could even get something where it looks like there's going to be a breakout and it fails. Okay, what's Spot's got here? Oh, okay. So he's just pointing out that he finally got a pivot low on the 5-minute chart, but that it did not touch the 100% fixed target. I mean, I don't think that we've seen a time yet where we got that much volatility and it didn't go down to the second target, though. From a risk reward perspective, I think that a short above 30.21 makes sense, but from a probability perspective, I think that the trade would not be for me. That makes it really hard, but it makes sense. Yeah. And that's the other thing, is that the market is really competitive. One of the things that I hear people say a lot in trading is like, keep it simple. But I mean, obviously, more simple your trading strategy is, probably the more easily you are going to be able to execute on it. But in order to generate edge over other market participants, it's probably going to have to be a complicated thing. Daily point of control shifted down here. So when I saw that excessive liquidity, it was at 12. I found that the most reliable piece of information you can have for a decision-making perspective is buyers, sellers' failures at key structure points. Yeah, I don't know, Gian, because I've never been able to find something that really tells me for certain, like, here's a point at which I know that they're failing and that I can buy or sell it then at that point. It always ends up being an after the fact sort of a thing. Just like what we're pointing out on the upside. Yeah, there was resistance up at the high. At yesterday's high. Yeah, yesterday's high, there was some resistance, 30.79.50. But how did I know that that was resistance that they weren't going to go through? I didn't know it. Frankly, I didn't know it, that was resistance that was going to just completely make the market fall apart. I didn't know that that was the case until it hit 30.40. So, and the only reason it was 30.40 was because that's when the news flow was going. Because you got to remember that we've got this Russell thing going on. So, one of the reasons we might be seeing all this volume around 30.15 is because that's where the guys that are doing the index funds said, okay, now I think we get a good price to get in to track the index. I just thought it was as simple as go long when it's low and go short when it's high. No, no, because yeah, that's an interesting thing, because when you start out in trading, we think of it as there's a range. Are we high or are we low, and buy it here and sell it here. But as you go along, I think that you will start to think of it as like this, that there's points, okay? And when you get to those inflection points, we will either continue or reverse. And the more volume you see kind of trading against the move at a certain location, the more likely they are to reverse. But like I said, there's always this possibility that more volume comes and just pushes it through. So you never really know. But then I think there's a third step. And the third step is that there is value. And when certain things happen, value changes. And then the markets will rotate around in value. That's the way that I look at it. And so for me, if we're right here and this is, this is the low, but because for me value has changed down here, I don't care. I sell it. Uh, uh, um. Anyways, experience makes it simple so that a lot of things just become instant thought. I don't know. I've had periods where I thought that I really had it, and then it stopped working. So, and maybe my understanding with news changes too. The next 9 to 10 minutes will likely be somewhat random looking. Oh yeah, because we're coming into the cash close for London. Yeah, and look like for now, for example, buyers are styling to push, but sellers are responding and pushing back to a small support at 30.15. Yeah. Lewis, you made over 20K this week. Wow. Good job, dude. 30, 40, 25 was also where this week opened. Yeah, you know what? It's kind of funny. I didn't realize that was where the week opened when I took it. That was just the point at which I realized that the news was going to push us down. That there was news was about to come out and that it was likely to be bad and that we were gonna puke. I lost over 500. Oh, that's so bad. That's not so bad. You consider yourself lucky. But in my mind, it was like $500 in a week. Yeah. I know what if I've lost $500 in a day, and that was I felt so dumb. That was probably the worst one. Was back when they basically confirmed that um the the Brexit was going to happen. When they basically confirmed the Brexit was going to happen, I think I was correct about how it was going to affect the indexes and everything, and that we were going to go to new highs. Although there was this whole thing about the China trade war was still kind of out there, so maybe I was bearish. But the mistake that I made was thinking that I could just trade that level of volatility. And so I took it was like I'd take a trade and it would immediately stop me out. I was like, what the fuck? And I was down 500 and I was like, okay, we're done. We're done. It also affects his view of the market. Some days he just forgets the direction he was biased in when he started. Well, maybe, but my opinion should change as the current information changes, right? But it has been a couple of times where I've said, well, here are the things that I care about the most, and then I forget about those things, and then I say, oh yeah, if I had just stuck to those things, I would have done really well. That happens often. It's simple. It's like an apple stand. Apples at $10 are too much, so farmer lowers prices back to $5. 50% retrace. Seth, take it at 3. Louisiana is on the rise. At 3? You mean 3,000? I don't know what you mean. I mean, on a day like today, I don't necessarily want to be a buyer. So here's the issue that you got now. I don't know how this. So we're now at the limits of my knowledge. I've seen Russell days before, but the Russell days that we've had before were not in nearly as volatile for markets, and I wasn't paying as much attention to it. So now we have a situation. I know that there's a Russell rebalance going on, and here in a minute, the European markets are going to close. So I'm assuming that a lot of people they've got their thing done and they're done and gone. So now that they're done and gone, does that mean there's going to be slightly less buying support and we could move down to the lows again? Or does it mean that we're going to go back into Russell range day and we're going to be stuck around here for a long time? I don't think I know what's going to happen. Given how strong of a move down we had, I suppose that my gut is always going to want to say short. The trend is short today, so you want to be short. But I don't actually think I know what it's going to do. Lewis says, thanks, Seth. Lots of coffee out your mug. Great magical mug. Dude, they're so great. If you haven't gotten it, in the video description, you should remind me about this because I don't. We should I don't know. I mean, we do make a little bit if you get the mug, but I just think it's a cool mug. If you like the mug, because I feel like you guys, oh man, some of you guys, Lewis, you've been around for such a long time. Oh my gosh, this has been like 2 years, hasn't it? You guys are here every day, and yeah, I just feel like if you spend 2 hours a day with somebody, that it'd be nice to have something to remember them by. So that's why we made the mugs. So, um, it does help the channel, but I wouldn't buy it because it helps the channel. I buy it because you want it, because you want something cool that says trader's going to trade. And I just have to say, it does look quite nice when you get it. So that's that. Really, if you want to like help the channel out, then the best thing that you can do is find the video like later in the day when it's reprocessed. Sometimes you'll come back and it hasn't reprocessed, and so you can only see like 2 hours of it and you can't see the beginning of the video. So wait. And then when you can see the whole thing, find your timestamps of your favorite things and go into the comments and put timestamps of things that you liked in the video, or argue with people in the comments. That helps the channel out the most if you want to help the channel. You should be sending those mugs to your longtime viewers for their birthdays. That's not a bad idea. So for that, then you would have to give me your addresses. I'll tell you what, bots. If you give me your address, I will buy one for you and send it out to you. Because bots has been one of my best friends for 3 years now, and I don't know when your birthday is because I'm a terrible friend. I'm awful with those things, but I would totally buy you a mug for sure. Anyways, oh, it's 9:32. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? Oh, we're supposed to do a Facebook. Oh, it will. No, it won't give you the address, will it? Top 6. I hope the S&P drops below 3,000 so we can see some dank panics. I know, right? If they actually got below 3,000 now at this point, I see some real opportunity for chaos. I don't know if it'll happen though. I don't know. I think that the fundamental context of the day is things that I'm a little fuzzy on. So I'm going to be watching really carefully to see how things go throughout the day. I'm going to be really studying that footprint chart at the end of the day. So, Facebook will tell you when my birthday is. Oh, is it today? Wait, is it today? Better not be today. Hold on. Let's find him here. No, wait, where does it tell it? Oh, it's September 15th. Okay. Wait, I'm going to put it in my phone. Otherwise, I won't remember. I don't remember anything. I've been so bad with like appointments and stuff lately. I was missing appointments. So I started going hardcore with the phone, putting it all in the phone. Okay. September, that's somebody else does something in September 15th. What? Oh, maybe not. Yes. Something happens on September 18th, and I just put Worlds, and I don't know what that is. Oh, that's the world. Oh, that's the World Weightlifting Championship. Mine was May 31st. I'm 35 now, I guess. Yeah. It's funny because we literally didn't do anything for my birthday. Okay, what Smash would say? NCN this math month. I have an 85% win rate. What? Okay, you have a 1 to 14 average profit factor. All of my trades are based off of volume, no fundamentals. Okay. That would be well, so first of all, I think we'd have to have more than a month. But so like my question is, do you believe that if you continue to use that exact setup for the next 5 years that it will continue to be that successful? Because my kind of take is that like I can look at the way that not 1 to 14. Yeah, well, yeah, certainly not 1 to 14. But do you think that it would have a positive expectancy over 5 years? Um, a little over 1 to 1. Oh, not 1 to 1, 1 to 114. You meant like 1 to 1.4. I see what you're saying. Okay, that actually sounds like more reasonable, and that sounds like a Gary Norton kind of stats. And I want to know how to do that, but I don't know how to do that, dude. But if if we could do it over multiple years and show that it has a consistent expectancy, and that when we traded it, that it had a consistent expectancy, and that it really was 100% based on volume, then I would really, well, not only would I, but I think that a number of people would like to see that proven, that you perform that well and that it's doable. One of the questions that I have when we're doing those sorts of things is, you say that it's based on volume, but there's always kind of this thing where it's like you might be incorporating fundamental data and not necessarily even realize it. That's where I'm like, usually I can find things where I know what the market context is, and then there's kind of a technical setup to take advantage of it, but it's still based off of a fundamental context. So I don't know. But if you could show me, like, if you could get on Discord and you could like show me the stats and like show me that it's on live and everything like that, that is at least a start. Because the contention is you should use fundamentals, and you're saying I only use volume and I'm successful. And then the pushback is, well, it might be successful now, but past performance isn't indicative of future results. But if you continue to be consistent with it over, say, a 5-year period, I think that that is what most retail traders are looking for. So then the question would be, if more people started to use it, would the edge disappear? I think that would be the case, that it would. So we shouldn't share it. You should keep it to yourself. I sure wish, though, that I had trades where I could take a 1-to-1 risk reward and win 85% of the time. I don't know. Let's see here. Suggestion: look at initial margin borrowed, how much profit gained or lost, and examine the ratios of risk to reward over X hours, days, weeks, and annualize it. Yeah. But you could prove me wrong. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is I'm like taking this perspective and I'm like, well, can somebody prove me wrong? Because then it would have to be, oh, maybe there is some inefficiency that is really consistent, and we just, no retail traders know. Okay, somebody's at the door. It's time for me to go. I appreciate it. I will see you guys. Wait, let's rename the video. Let's rename markets erase Thursday gains off awful Florida. Numbers. No, let's just say awful Florida coronavirus numbers. That's what we're going to call it. Save. Fundamentally speaking, yeah, we should continue this conversation next week. You can come back and tell me more Smash, or hit me up on Discord. You don't have to tell me how it does, but obviously I would love to know more about it. Whatever you're willing to share with me. So I will see you guys next week, and in the meantime, stay profitable.